Welcome to Monk's Temple. Find a comfortable place to rest now. Perhaps you're lying in bed, the day's weight still on your shoulders. Or sitting in a quiet chair, seeking a moment of respite. Wherever you are, let go of the need to be anywhere else. Notice the gentle rise and fall of your chest. Feel the points where your body meets the world, the pillow, the blanket, the floor. For the next while, we won't be trying to fix anything. Not the tension in your neck, not the worry in your mind, not the deep fatigue that seems part of your bones. Instead, we will learn a different way to be with all of it. A way of gentle observation, of creating space. This is not a new technique, but an ancient wisdom, a core understanding that the Buddha shared over 2,000 years ago. It is the simple, profound truth that while the body is in a constant state of change, the mind can learn to be steady. Let's begin with a story from my own life, many years ago. I was traveling through the high desert, a vast landscape of red rock and immense silence. My old truck, a faithful companion, began to make a sound, a low, rhythmic groan that came from deep within the engine with every turn of the wheel. I felt my own body tighten in response. Each groan felt like a personal failure, a problem I had to solve immediately in the middle of nowhere. My mind became a frantic mechanic, diagnosing, worrying, imagining being stranded. I pulled over under the blistering sun, the silence now absolute and heavy. I opened the hood, not knowing what I was looking for. Heat shimmered off the metal. And then, as I stood there, utterly helpless, a strange thing happened. A large, shadowy bird, a raven, landed on a nearby rock. It tilted its head, looking at me, then at the truck, then back at me. It let out a soft, croaking sound, almost like a chuckle. In that moment, my frantic internal dialogue stopped. I saw the scene from the outside, a man, a machine, a bird, under an endless sky. The truck's groan was just a sound in the desert. My panic was just a feeling in the body. The vast, timeless landscape held it all without concern. That was my teacher that day. Not a person, but the desert itself, illustrating a foundational principle of Buddhism. Anicca, impermanence, and the possibility of a mind that doesn't have to be swept away by every changing condition. The truck's condition was changing. My body's anxiety was changing. But the aware space that witnessed both, the silent desert of the mind, was steady. We spend so much of our lives like I was in that moment, the frantic mechanic, trying to fix the groan, believing the groan is the whole world. What if we could learn, even a little, to be the open desert that holds the groan, the truck, the raven, and the sky, all within its boundless space? If this way of seeing, this first step back from the noise, resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. Your subscription is like a gentle nod in this quiet direction, a way to keep this sanctuary of understanding alive and growing, ensuring these conversations can continue whenever you need to return. Now, let's go a little deeper. I'd like to introduce you to a metaphor I've come to cherish. Imagine an ancient, sprawling tree. A giant oak or a mighty redwood. See its massive trunk, gnarled and weathered. See its countless branches reaching in every direction, some strong, some slender. Now, see its leaves. Thousands, millions of them. Some are fresh green buds, just opening to the spring sun. Some are full, deep green, photosynthesis humming along. Some are turning brilliant gold and red. And some are brown, brittle, releasing their hold, drifting slowly to the forest floor. This is the nature of our experience. Our body, our physical being, is like the entire tree. But our conscious attention, where we place our identity, is most often like a single leaf. When a sensation arises, a sharp pain in the knee, a headache brewing, we become that one brown, aching leaf. We believe, I am withering. I am falling. This is all there is. We forget we are attached to a branch, connected to a limb, fed by the vast, deep trunk, rooted in the silent, dark earth. The Buddha's teachings guide us to trace our awareness back from the suffering leaf. Feel the branch, the limb, the immense, steady trunk, the roots. The pain is real, on the leaf. But you are not only the leaf. You are the whole, living, breathing tree. The leaf changes, moment to moment. The tree remains, steady through seasons. The practice is remembering your treeness. Let me share an original story, a parable about this very remembering. In a village built on the slopes of a dormant volcano, there lived a master mapmaker named Alara. Her maps were legendary, not for marking roads, but for capturing the spirit of a place, where the light fell at dawn, where the quietest listening spots were. One year, a series of small tremors shook the village. No damage was done, but a constant, low-grade fear settled over the people. They came to Alara. Make us a map, they begged. A map that shows us where it is safe. Where the ground is solid and will not move. Alara listened. She took her tools and walked out of the village, up the mountain paths. She was gone for many days. When she returned, she unrolled a large scroll before the villagers. They crowded around, eager for their certainty. But the map showed no houses, no safe zones. Instead, it was a detailed, beautiful depiction of the volcano itself. Its vast slopes, its hidden springs, its ancient lava flows. At the bottom, she had written, "The mountain shakes. The mountain is steady." The people were confused. This was not what they wanted. But an old farmer, his hands etched with soil, leaned in and smiled. He understood. He lived with the mountain every day. He knew the tremors were just the mountain sighing in its sleep. His worry had been like focusing only on a single shaking pebble on the path, missing the immense, unmoving presence beneath it. The map wasn't of the fear, it was of the container holding the fear. Your body, with its tremors and aches, is the surface of the mountain. It will shake. It will sigh. Your mindful awareness can be the deep, foundational rock of the mountain itself. It can hold the tremors without being defined by them. This is the shift. We stop trying to map only the safe spots where pain doesn't exist, an impossible task, and we learn instead to rest in the awareness of the whole terrain, the vast, steady ground of being that is always here, beneath the weather of sensation. Continue. This understanding, that we are the whole mountain, not just the shaking stone, invites us into a subtle but revolutionary relationship with our own senses. In Buddhism, this is often explored through mindfulness of the body. But let's approach it not as a task, but as a homecoming. Imagine your field of awareness as a vast, dark, silent lake under a night sky. The water is perfectly still, deep, and clear. Now, every sensation, every thought, every sound is like a pebble dropped into this lake. A pain in your shoulder is a pebble. The sound of distant traffic is a pebble. A memory surfacing is a pebble. Each pebble creates ripples. They spread out, they intersect, they eventually fade. Our habitual pattern is to chase the ripples. We see the ripples from the pain pebble, and we dive into them, we follow their rings, we become the disturbance. We think, I am the ripples. The practice is to notice the pebble, acknowledge the ripples, but then, gently, to return our attention to the deep water beneath, which is always still. The pebbles will keep falling. That is the changing body, the changing world. But you can learn to reside in the depth that is not disturbed at its core. You are the lake, not the ripples. I remember a winter I spent in a small, uninsulated cabin. The cold was a constant presence, a sharp, metallic guest in every room. I would huddle by the small wood stove, my body tense, trying to fight the cold, to make my little circle of heat the entire reality. One particularly bitter night, the fire went out. I fumbled with frozen fingers, unable to relight it. Defeated, I wrapped myself in every blanket I had and sat on the cot. In that surrender, something shifted. Instead of fighting the cold, I decided to feel it. I brought my attention to the sensation itself, not to my story about it. The cold on my face was a precise, tingling numbness. The chill in my feet was a dull, heavy ache. And as I observed them, just as patterns of sensation, I noticed other things too. The weight and softness of the blankets. The sound of the wind singing in the chimney pipe. The faint smell of old pine from the walls. My awareness expanded to hold it all, the cold and the warmth of my own breath in the blanket fort, the discomfort and the strange beauty of the howling night. The body was reporting, cold, an unpleasant pebble in the lake. But the mind, by turning toward it with open curiosity, found it was the whole lake, capable of holding that pebble without being shattered by it. The cold didn't magically disappear. But my war with it did. And in the ceasefire, there was a profound steadiness. This leads us to another core concept from the Buddha's wisdom, Vedana, or feeling tone. It is the immediate, subconscious labeling of every experience as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. It happens faster than thought. The ache is tagged, unpleasant. The soft blanket is tagged, pleasant. The sound of the fridge humming is tagged, neutral. Our suffering multiplies when we grasp at the pleasant, push away the unpleasant, and ignore the neutral. We are like gardeners who only want sunshine and rainbows, who rage against the frost and the drought, forgetting that the ecosystem of our life needs the full cycle. What if we could meet each feeling tone not as a command, but as a simple weather report? Ah, unpleasant is here. Not, I must destroy this. Just. Noted. This creates a tiny, crucial gap between sensation and reaction. In that gap is your freedom. In that gap, the mind finds its steadiness. Let me tell you a story about a clock that didn't tell time. In a city of efficient routines, there was a master clockmaker named Silas. His greatest creation was a magnificent public clock tower, its gears a masterpiece of synchrony, its chime marking the hours with flawless precision. One day, a complex fault developed deep in the mechanism. The clock's hands began to move erratically. Sometimes they sped up, sometimes they slowed, sometimes they quivered in place. The city was in an uproar. People missed appointments. They felt unmoored, anxious, late even when they were early. Silas climbed into the tower, his heart sinking. The repair would take weeks. As he sat amidst the tangled gears, feeling the weight of the city's frustration, he had an idea. He brought in a simple, old bell, one with a pure, resonant tone. He hung it in the tower with a single rope. The next morning, as the sun rose, he rang the bell. A clear, single note rolled out over the city. He did nothing else. No time was told. Just a single note at dawn. He did it again at noon, and at sunset. At first, people were confused. Then, they began to listen. They stopped looking at the frantic, useless hands. They started waiting for the bell. The dawn bell became a moment to pause and feel the new day. The noon bell a moment to breathe. The sunset bell a moment to release. The city discovered a rhythm deeper than the clock's time. The rhythm of presence, of their own breath, of the sun's journey. Our bodies are like that magnificent, faulty clock. They give us confusing, erratic signals. Pain flares and recedes. Energy waxes and wanes. We feel off schedule, broken, out of sync. We stare at the frantic hands, believing they define our reality. The practice of steady mindfulness is like hanging that simple bell. It is the deliberate return to a single, clear note in the present moment. The breath. A sound. The feeling of your feet on the ground. You ring it once, and for that moment, you are not ruled by the faulty clock of the body's sensations. You are anchored in a timeless now. The Buddha's path is not about fixing the clock perfectly, that is impossible. It is about learning to listen for, and trust, the clear bell of your own awareness within the tower, regardless of how the gears are turning. The body's time is erratic. The mind's presence can be a steady bell. So feel into that now. Where are you? Not in the story of your day, but in the raw data of this moment. The pressure where you sit or lie. The temperature of the air. The faint taste in your mouth. Can you hear your own heartbeat in the silence? This is not an escape from the body. It is a homecoming to its most fundamental, steady presence, the alive, sensing field that is here before the labels of pain or comfort are applied. This field is always steady. It is the canvas upon which the changing pictures of sensation are painted. Your knee might be a storm of red and black paint on one corner of the canvas. But the canvas itself is not stormy. It holds the storm. It remains, whole, intact, steady. Your awareness is that canvas. Trust its quiet, unwavering support. This sense of being the canvas, the steady lake, the deep mountain rock, this is what the Buddha pointed to as our true refuge. It is not a refuge from life, but within it. It's the discovery of an inner sanctum that no external condition, no bodily change, can ultimately violate. To cultivate this, we must look directly at one of the most persistent illusions, the sense of a solid, separate, permanent self that is having these experiences. In Buddhism, this is the teaching of anatta, non-self. It sounds philosophical, but its experience is the most practical relief imaginable. It's the understanding that you are not a fixed statue being eroded by rain, but you are the weather itself, and the space in which the weather unfolds. Let's create a new metaphor. Imagine you are a spacious, sunlit room. The windows are open. Through them flows the world. Sunlight pours in, warm and golden, that's a moment of joy. Rain spatters against the glass, gray and cool, that's a wave of sadness. A sudden gust slams a shutter, that's a sharp pain. We spend our lives decorating this room with I and me and mine. We hang pictures on the walls that say, my pain, my story, my past. We point to the rain and say, I am the storm. We point to the broken shutter and say, I am broken. The practice is to stop decorating. To simply be the empty, aware room. The sunlight comes and goes. The rain comes and goes. The wind rattles the shutters. The room doesn't cling to the sun or hate the rain. It holds space for all of it. It doesn't personalize the weather. You are that room. The sensations, the thoughts, the aches, they are the weather passing through. The steady mind is the clear, open space that is never damaged by what passes through it. I learned this not in a grand revelation, but while watching an old stonecutter at work. He was carving a basin from a single block of granite, for a garden fountain. His tools were simple, a hammer, a chisel, patience. I asked him, how do you know what to remove? He didn't look up. He tapped a precise spot. I'm not removing anything, he said. The bowl is already in there. The water's shape is already in the stone. My job is just to take away the rock that isn't part of it. To let it be seen. I sat with that for a long time. Our suffering, our tension, our identification with the ache, this is the extra rock. The practice of mindfulness, of steady awareness, is not about adding a new philosophy. It is the gentle, persistent tapping away of everything we are not, the stories, the fears, the tight clutching at a self that is under siege. Beneath all that extra stone is the already complete basin, the natural shape of awareness that can hold the water of experience without resistance. The Buddha's teachings are that chisel. Each moment of noticing, this is a thought, not me, is a tap. Each moment of feeling, this is sensation, not my core, is a tap. We are not building steadiness. We are uncovering the steadiness that was always there, obscured by the rock of our misunderstanding. Let me tell you an original story about a gardener and two trees. In a monastery garden, there were two trees planted at the same time. One was an apple tree, the other a willow. The young monk tasked with their care tended to them equally. But he had a preference. He loved the apple tree, its solid trunk, its promise of fruit, its orderly growth. He worried over the willow. Its drooping branches seemed sad to him, its leaves too delicate. A storm one autumn was particularly fierce. The next morning, the monk ran to the garden. The apple tree, for all its solidity, had lost a major limb. It lay on the ground, splintered, sap bleeding into the soil. The monk was heartbroken. He then looked at the willow. It was bent almost double, its branches sweeping the ground. But as the wind died, it began to slowly, gracefully, rise back up. By noon, it was standing once more, having surrendered to the wind completely, and thus remaining unbroken. The head monk found the young man weeping by the apple tree. "Why do you cry?" the old monk asked. "For the tree's lost arm," he replied. The head monk gestured to both trees. "You loved the apple for its rigidity, which became its weakness. You feared the willow for its flexibility, which was its profound strength. You have been watering them both, but you only gave your respect to one form of being." The young monk understood. We often treat our minds like the apple tree. We want it solid, rigid, unchanging, holding a perfect shape against the storms of life. And when the storm of chronic pain, or aging, or illness hits, we feel shattered, broken, a limb torn away. The Buddha's way is the way of the willow. The steady mind is not a rigid, resistant structure. It is a flexible, aware presence that bends with the storm, that feels the pain fully, that acknowledges the fear completely, but does not identify as the storm. It yields, and in that yielding, it does not break. It finds its steadiness not in resistance, but in a deep, resilient acceptance of the wind. Your body may feel rigid, aching, broken. But can your awareness learn the supple, yielding strength of the willow? Can it bend with the sensation, rather than stand rigidly against it, waiting to snap? This flexibility is born of perspective. Right now, bring to mind a discomfort in your body. It doesn't have to be the greatest one, just a noticeable one. Now, instead of focusing on its epicenter, explore its edges. Where does the sensation actually end? Can you find a precise boundary? Or does it diffuse, fade into a different feeling? Now, expand your awareness to include the space around that sensation. The parts of your body that are not in discomfort. The air on your skin. The sounds in the room. The sensation is still present, but it is now situated within a vast field of other experiences. It is not the only resident in the room of your awareness. It is one guest among many. This simple act of widening the lens is the essence of the meditation the Buddha taught. It is the movement from being a prisoner in a small, painful room, to being the welcoming host in a large, open mansion. The painful guest is still there. But it is not in charge. You, as the spacious awareness, are. This is your innate steadiness. It doesn't deny the pain. It contextualizes it within the immensity of your true nature. We so often live in the cramped cupboard of a single sensation or a single worrying thought, believing it to be our entire house. The practice is simply to open the door to the next room. And the next. And the next. Until you realize you are the whole estate, the boundless grounds. The ache is in one wing. But there are sunlit kitchens of memory, quiet libraries of peace, and open verandas of breath waiting for your presence. The body's signal is loud in one small room. The mind's wisdom is to remember you have the key to all the others. Walk through. Breathe in the different air. The steady mind is not a locked fortress against pain. It is the freedom to move through all the rooms of your present experience without getting permanently stuck in any single one. This is the path. This is the way out of suffering that the Buddha revealed. Not by breaking down the walls of the painful room, but by discovering they were never the outer walls of your being to begin with. This freedom to move through the rooms of our experience brings us to another profound tool from the Buddha's wisdom, mindfulness of the mind itself. We've spoken of sensations as weather, as guests, as pebbles in a lake. But what about the one who is aware? Often, we turn awareness itself into another problem. We judge our mind for being restless, for being sad, for not being steady enough. This is like being angry at the sky for having clouds. Let's introduce a kinder metaphor. Imagine your awareness is a vast, clear, nighttime sky. Thoughts are like satellites, small, moving points of light with specific trajectories. Feelings are like nebulae, clouds of colored gas, diffuse and shimmering. Sensations are like meteors, streaks of light that flash and are gone. You can spend all night focusing on a single satellite, tracking its path, worrying about its course. Or you can be fascinated by a particular nebula of sadness, getting lost in its hues. Or you can flinch with every meteor streak of pain. Or, you can simply lean back and take in the whole, magnificent, star-filled expanse. The satellites, nebulae, and meteors are all content. They come and go. The sky is the context. It holds them all without effort. Your job is not to control the satellites. Your job is to remember you are the sky. The sky is always steady, even when it is filled with dramatic activity. A mind that knows it is the sky is a steady mind. I recall a long, silent retreat where this became painfully clear. The instruction was simple: note the rising and falling of the abdomen with the breath. My mind, however, was a riot. It was a chaotic film festival of memories, plans, anxieties, and songs. I felt like a failure. My sky was nothing but turbulent storm clouds. In a moment of despair, I confessed this to the teacher. She listened and said softly, "Good. You have excellent awareness." I was confused. "But I'm aware of chaos." She smiled. "The chaos is the film. Your awareness of the chaos is the projector light. The light is steady. It is what allows the film to be seen at all. Can you notice the quality of the light itself, regardless of the movie it's showing?" That question changed everything. I sat back down. The chaotic film continued. But now, I was also aware of the aware space in which it played. I felt the stillness of my own body sitting. I heard the room tone. I felt the breath, not as a task, but as a steady rhythm beneath the mental noise. The projector light was steady. It always had been. I had just been too engrossed in the movie to notice it. The Buddha didn't teach us to stop the film. He taught us to find the light. Let me share an original story about a tapestry weaver named Anya. Anya wove tapestries for the royal hall, immense works that told stories of history and myth. She worked from the back of the loom. Her world was a chaos of colored threads, knots, and loose ends. It was messy, confusing, and sometimes painful. Her fingers would ache, threads would snap, patterns would seem lost. She would often feel overwhelmed, lost in the tangled underside. One day, a young apprentice, overwhelmed by the complexity, asked, "How do you bear it?" "It's just a mess of knots and colors." Anya led her to the front of the loom. There, the other side of the work was revealed. A majestic scene of a mountain at dawn was emerging, the threads forming a harmonious, beautiful picture. "You see," Anya said, "I must work from the back, with the knots and the tangles. That is the nature of the work. But I hold the image of the front in my mind. I know each knot, each snag, is part of that mountain slope, that ray of sun. The pain in my fingers is the price of the sunrise. Our direct experience is the back of the loom. It is the tangled, knotted, sometimes painful mess of immediate sensation and thought. We feel the raw ache, the snapped thread of patience, the confusing pattern of our day. Suffering is believing the back is all there is. Wisdom, the steady mind, is the ability to remember the front of the loom. It is the intuitive knowing that this sensation is part of a larger, meaningful whole, the tapestry of a life, of awareness itself. You don't have to see the full picture to trust it exists. You can work with the knot of pain, not as a personal failure, but as a necessary thread in a grander design you are helping to weave. The Buddha's teachings give us glimpses of the front of the loom. The interconnectedness, the impermanent beauty, the peace that is possible when we see from the perspective of the whole, not the knot. This perspective allows us to meet what Buddhism calls the hindrances, those states that seem to cloud the mind. Sloth, restlessness, aversion, doubt. We usually see them as enemies to our peace. What if we saw them as different types of weather in our sky, or different colored threads in our tapestry? Aversion to pain is a dark, heavy thread. Restlessness is a bunch of short, jagged threads. Instead of trying to rip them out, which only tears the tapestry, can we learn to weave with them? Can we take the thread of aversion and use it to create the shadow that gives the mountain depth? Can we take the thread of restlessness and use it to create the texture of grass in the wind? This is the alchemy of a steady mind. It doesn't reject any part of the experience. It integrates it. It uses the difficult material to create a richer, more compassionate whole. Your irritation, your fatigue, your physical ache, these are not mistakes. They are your particular threads. The steady mind is the weaver who accepts all threads, knowing each has a place in the emerging picture of a conscious, authentic life. So feel into your own tapestry right now. What threads are in your hands? There might be a thick, coarse thread of discomfort. There might be a slippery thread of anxiety. There might be a soft, warm thread of breath. You are not any single thread. You are the weaver. You have the capacity to hold them all. You can notice the coarse thread without becoming it. You can feel the slippery thread without losing your grip. You can appreciate the soft thread without clinging. Breathe. Weave. The body provides the threads, they are always changing, some pleasant, some not. The mind provides the loom, the steady, aware space where the weaving happens. Trust the weaver you are. The picture is emerging, one conscious breath, one accepting moment at a time. This work of weaving, of being the sky-like awareness, often brings us face to face with the most persistent thread, the story of self. We spin narratives from our sensations. This pain is ruining my life. I am a person who cannot find peace. These stories solidify like mortar, building a prison we mistake for a home. The Buddha's radical insight of anatta, non-self, is the invitation to stop building. It is not that you don't exist, but that what you fundamentally are is not a fixed, static thing. You are a process. A flowing river of phenomena. To grasp at any part of it and say, "This is me," forever, is to cause suffering. Let's explore this with a new metaphor. Imagine you are a bonfire on a wide, dark beach. The flames are your thoughts, leaping, dancing, constantly changing shape. The heat is your feeling tone, pleasant warmth, unpleasant scorching. The crackling logs are your physical sensations, solid, shifting, transforming. The light cast on the sand is your perceived world. Now, where is the fire itself? Is it in the red flame? The yellow tip? The glowing ember? The fire is the entire, dynamic, transforming event. It is the interdependent arising of fuel, air, and spark. There is no solid, fire entity, to be found, only this magnificent, transient phenomenon. You are that fire. You are the event of experiencing, not a permanent owner trapped inside it. The pain is a log turning to ember. The worry is a tongue of flame leaping up. They are part of the fire's beautiful, necessary dance, not flaws in its essence. Seeing this, the mind can steady itself not as a stone against the flames, but as the open space on the beach that allows the fire to be exactly what it is. I witnessed a powerful lesson in this during a walk with an old forestry keeper. We came upon a giant, ancient tree that had been struck by lightning. Its heart was hollowed out, a blackened cavern. Yet, from its upper branches, vibrant green leaves sprouted. From the rich, decayed wood inside its trunk, a cluster of delicate white mushrooms grew. I saw a dead thing. He saw a thriving ecosystem. This is its most generous phase, he said. When it was just a solid trunk, it gave shade. Now, it gives shelter to owls, nutrients to fungi, a scaffold for moss. It is more alive now, in its giving over, than it ever was. Our culture teaches us to see the hollowing, the aching, the changes of the body as defeat. The final burning of the log. Buddhism offers the forestry keeper's eyes. What if this phase, with its unique pains and limitations, is not a diminishment but a transformation? What if the hollowing out of old capacities makes space for different kinds of life? For deeper patience, for unexpected compassion, for the quiet wisdom that only grows in the spaces left when certain flames die down. The steady mind is the one that can see the whole life cycle, not cling to one stage. It can honor the green leaf and the nourishing rod as part of the same, sacred process. Let me tell you an original story about a bell and a bell ringer. In a village where people carried heavy burdens, there was a bell in the town square. The rule was this. Anyone feeling overwhelmed by their load could ring the bell, and everyone would stop and breathe together for 1 minute. For years, it worked. People rang it for grief, for fatigue, for pain. One year, a drought came. The burdens became constant, universal. The bell rang so often it became a new source of stress, a reminder of the unending struggle. The bell ringer, an elderly woman named Maeve, saw the problem. One evening, without announcement, she rang the bell at a new time. The exact moment the sun dipped below the horizon. The note rang out, clear and golden as the last light. People stopped, confused. It wasn't a distress signal. They looked up, and for the first time that day, they saw the magnificent colors of the sunset. The next evening, she did it again. And again. Soon, people began to anticipate it. They would set down their burdens and gather, not in shared pain, but in shared presence for the daily sunset. The bell's meaning transformed. It was no longer solely the sound of, "My burden is too heavy." It became the sound of, "Here is a moment of shared beauty, regardless of burden." The bell itself hadn't changed. The context had. Your pain, your ache, your worry, it is your personal bell, ringing in your nervous system. You have been trained to hear it only as a distress signal, a summons to fight or flee. The practice of steadiness is to learn to hear it as Maeve's sunset bell. The sensation is still there. The sound is the same. But you change the context. You hear the ache, and you also, deliberately, bring your attention to the sunset of your breath. To the color of the quiet in the room. To the vast sky of awareness holding it all. You ring the bell of your own mindful presence at the same time. The distress signal becomes one note in a larger, more beautiful chord. This is a skillful means taught within Buddhism, using the very thing that bothers you as the call to presence. The pain says, "Pay attention to me." And you answer, "Yes. I am paying attention. And I am also paying attention to everything else that is true right now." In that full attention, the mind steadies. So, let's practice this recontextualizing. Where is your bell ringing right now? A tension in the jaw? A throbbing in the knee? A tightness in the chest? Acknowledge its sound. Bell is ringing. Now, without asking the bell to stop, find your sunset. The steady flow of breath at the nostrils. The feeling of support beneath you. A sound in the distance. Let your awareness hold both, the bell and the sunset, the sensation and the breath. They are both happening in the same vast now. You are not the bell ringer overwhelmed by the noise. You are the spacious town square in which the bell rings and the sunset occurs. The square holds it all. It does not resonate only with the distress. It also holds the silence between the notes, the fading glow of the light, the gathering twilight. Your awareness is that square. The body's changing signals are the bells, ringing according to their own needs. The mind's steady wisdom is the open space that can hear them without becoming them. This is not passive resignation. It is the most active and creative thing you can do, to change the meaning of the signal from emergency to invitation. An invitation to come home to the whole of your experience, not just the loudest part. The Buddha's path is paved with such invitations. Each moment of discomfort is another one, calling you not deeper into the story of a suffering self, but deeper into the boundless, steady reality of aware presence. Continue. Accepting these invitations, we begin to walk a path the Buddha called the middle way. It is the path between rigid denial and helpless indulgence. It is the balanced, steady mind that acknowledges pain without being enslaved by it. To understand this balance, let's imagine a skilled musician tuning a stringed instrument, perhaps a cello. If the string is too loose, it produces no clear note, only a dull, flabby thud. This is the mind lost in lethargy, in avoidance, in numbing out against discomfort. If the string is too tight, it produces a sharp, screeching, brittle sound, and risks snapping. This is the mind gripped by resistance, by frantic fixing, by the tension of fighting what is. But when the string is tuned to just the right tension, not too loose, not too tight, it resonates with a pure, clear, beautiful tone. It is both strong and flexible. It can express the full range of music. Your attention is that string. Your practice is to tune it. When you drift into dullness with pain, you gently tighten your focus, bringing a kind, curious attention to the actual sensations. When you are tight with resistance, you gently loosen your grip, softening around the edges of the sensation, allowing it to be there without amplification. You seek the resonant tone of balanced awareness. This is the steady mind, not a state of blankness, but a state of perfect, vibrant tuning. It feels the full vibration of life, the sorrows and the joys, and allows them to make their music without losing its own essential, coherent note. I learned about this tuning from watching a master potter at her wheel. Her hands were covered in cool, gray clay. The wheel spun with a constant, rhythmic hum. A lump of clay, centered, began to rise. But as it rose, it wobbled. It lost its center. I expected her to force it back, to muscle it into shape. Instead, she did two things. First, she slowed the wheel. The frantic spinning calmed. Second, she wetted her hands. She reintroduced the element of slippery, gentle connection. Then, with the lightest, most patient pressure, she simply held the clay as it turned. Her hands did not move to shape it, they became a steady, yielding boundary. And the clay, finding that consistent presence, recentered itself. It found its own true axis and began to rise in a perfect, symmetrical cylinder. Our minds are that spinning wheel. Our painful or anxious thoughts are the wobbling clay. Our instinct is to spin faster, to think more, to fixate, to analyze. And to use dry, forceful hands to shove the experience back into a shape we like. This only creates more friction, more distortion. The Buddha's way is to slow the wheel. To bring in the soothing water of mindful breath. And then to apply a steady, gentle, compassionate presence, not to force the experience away, but to hold it within a boundary of awareness until it finds its own natural balance. The steady mind is not the potter imposing a form. It is the potter providing the conditions of calm and consistent attention in which the chaos naturally settles into order. Let me share an original story about a bridge and two villages. Two villages were separated by a deep, wild river. For generations, they built bridges. They built strong, rigid stone bridges. And every few years, the spring floods would come, and the raging waters, carrying massive logs of ice, would smash the stone spans to pieces. The villages would retreat, rebuild, and brace for the next destruction. It was a cycle of exhaustion. One year, a young builder from the north arrived. She studied the river, not the ruins. She proposed a different design, a flexible footbridge made of woven fibers and wood, anchored to the banks but with no rigid piers in the water itself. The elders scoffed. It looked weak. But she built it. When the spring floods came, the waters rose. The ice logs surged. And the bridge moved. It swayed. It dipped deep into the torrent. At moments, it was completely submerged. The villagers watched from the bluffs, sure it was lost. But as the flood peaked and began to recede, the bridge emerged. It rose back up, dripping, swaying gently. It was intact. It had yielded completely to the power of the river, and thus survived it. Our old strategies for dealing with pain are like those stone bridges. We try to build rigid walls of denial, distraction, or sheer willpower against the flood of sensation. And when the flood is strong enough, a chronic condition, a sharp injury, it shatters our defenses, leaving us feeling broken. The steady mind is the flexible bridge. It does not stand rigid against the sensation. It allows itself to feel the full force of the experience. It sways with it. It may even feel submerged by it for a time. But because it is anchored in the deep banks of mindful awareness and non-identification, it does not break. When the intensity passes, it remains. It is resilient because it is flexible. Buddhism teaches us to build this kind of psychological structure. One that is anchored in reality, not in resistance. So, how do we build this flexible bridge in our own being? We start with the anchors on the bank. One anchor is the breath. Not controlling it, just feeling its natural rhythm. Another anchor is the body as a whole, the feeling of gravity, of presence. Another is sound, letting sounds come and go without chasing them. These are your safe banks. Now, when the flood of a strong sensation comes, you feel it. You let it sway you. You don't try to be a stone pillar in the middle of it. You acknowledge, this is strong. This is the flood. But you keep one hand, metaphorically, on your anchor. You feel the breath and the pain. You feel your feet on the ground and the anxiety in your chest. You are the bridge connecting the two banks of experience, the bank of pure sensation and the bank of steady awareness. You are the connection. And by being that connection, you are not drowned by either side. This is the middle way in action. It is the balanced, tuned string. It is the flexible bridge. It is the steady mind that finds its strength in adaptive yielding, not in brittle resistance. Right now, sense into your own river. Is it calm? Is there a rising flood? Whatever its state, find your nearest anchor. The next full breath. The sensation of your eyelids. The subtle hum of silence. Place a little weight there. Let that be your bank. You don't have to solve the river. You just have to remember the bank is here. The body's changes are the river. Sometimes gentle, sometimes raging. The mind's awareness is the bank, always here, always steady, always providing a place to stand and observe the flow. This is your refuge. This is the peace the Buddha promised is possible, right in the midst of the flood. This refuge on the bank, this flexible bridge, allows us to examine a deep source of suffering, our relationship with time. So much of our pain is not about the present sensation, but about time. We grieve the past body that did not have this ache. We fear the future body where the ache may be worse. We are haunted by the ghost of before and terrified by the phantom of later. In doing so, we abandon the only reality we ever have, the present moment. The Buddha's teachings are profoundly rooted in the present, for it is the only place where awareness truly lives. Let's explore this with a metaphor of light. Imagine your awareness is a flashlight in a vast, dark cave. The cave is time, the long tunnel of past and future. The beam of the flashlight is your attention. If you point the beam behind you, you illuminate the past, faded footprints, old formations. If you swing it far ahead, you strain to see the future, shadows and uncertainty. In both cases, you are standing in the dark. The ground under your feet, the present moment, is unseen. The steady mind is the choice to point the flashlight down. To illuminate the ground you are standing on right now. The texture of the rock under your boot. The coolness of the air. The sound of a single drop of water. This is the richness of the present. The pain you feel is part of that ground. It is a rock under your foot. By shining the light of your attention on it directly, in the now, you see it for what it is, a sensation with specific qualities. Not a story about yesterday's walk or tomorrow's disability. Just this. Now. The past and future are concepts, thoughts flickering in the present. The ache is a direct experience. Meeting it directly, without the filter of time, strips away so much of its suffering. I had a personal insight about this while recovering from an illness that left me very weak. For weeks, I was trapped in bed, my world shrunk to the four walls of my room. My mind was a pendulum swinging between the past, I used to hike those mountains, and the future, will I ever be strong again? Both directions were pure agony. One afternoon, utterly drained, I stopped fighting. I let the pendulum stop. There was just the bed. The slight itch of the sheets. The slant of sunlight painting a bright rectangle on the wall. The faint, rhythmic tick of a clock. In that stillness, I noticed something. The weakness was just a heavy feeling in my limbs. It wasn't the ruin of my life. It was just a physical fact, like the weight of the blanket. The stories of past and future were the real source of the torture. The present moment, even with the weakness, was simply bearable. It was real. It was where I actually lived. The Buddha taught that liberation is found in seeing things as they are, not as our thoughts about time color them. The steady mind is the flashlight held steadily on the present ground. It does not deny the cave of time exists, but it knows that to walk safely, you must light the step you are taking, not the one you took 10 years ago or the one you might take in 10 years. Let me tell you an original story about a sundial and an hourglass. In a quiet monastery courtyard stood two timekeeping devices. One was an ornate marble sundial, etched with Latin phrases. It told time by the majestic, slow sweep of the sun's shadow. The other was a simple hourglass, filled with fine, white sand. A novice was tasked with marking the hours for prayer. He would consult the sundial, enjoying its grandeur. But on cloudy days, the sundial was useless, its elegant shadow vanished. The novice would grow anxious, unable to fulfill his duty. The old groundskeeper noticed his distress. He walked over, flipped the hourglass, and sat down beside it. "Watch," he said. The novice watched the sand. Each grain was a tiny, present moment, falling through the narrow now of the glass's neck. He watched one grain. Then another. The pile below grew. "The sun," said the groundskeeper, "measures time from a distance, like your memories and fears. It is beautiful, but it depends on conditions outside you. The sand," he said, pointing to the falling stream, "is time as it is lived. One grain at a time. You can only be with the grain that is falling. Not the pile that's gone. Not the pile to come. Just this one, falling now." The novice understood. His anxiety about the cloudy day was about the sundial's story of time. His duty was simply to be present for the passing moments, which the hourglass measured perfectly, rain or shine. Our suffering is like consulting the sundial on a cloudy day. We look for our sense of worth, our peace, in the grand stories of past health or future recovery. When those stories are obscured, we panic. The practice is to become the hourglass. To turn your attention to the grain of sand that is this breath. This heartbeat. This singular sensation. This is time as the body knows it. This is where life is actually happening. The steady mind chooses the hourglass. It finds its rhythm in the endless, manageable now. So, bring your flashlight down. Let it illuminate this grain of sand, this present step. What is the actual, raw data of this moment? Set aside the name of the sensation, the diagnosis, the prognosis. What is the pure experience? Is it a pulsing? A stiffness? A numbness? A heat? Observe it as a scientist might observe a strange mineral, with curiosity, not judgment. Note its qualities. Then, widen the beam just a little. What else is in this present moment? The feeling of air moving in and out of your nostrils. A distant sound. The play of light in the room. You are collecting data about the present, not writing a novel about the past or future. In this collected, present-focused awareness, a natural steadiness arises. Because the present moment is always exactly as it is. It is reality itself. And the mind that aligns with reality, not with its stories about reality, finds an unshakable footing. The body's pains are part of that reality. They are not mistakes in the present, they are features of it. By including them fully in your present moment awareness, you stop fighting the reality of your experience. And in that cessation of war, there is peace. This is the profound, practical peace the Buddha pointed to. It is not the peace of a pain-free body. It is the peace of a mind that has stopped arguing with the present condition of the body. It has come home to the only time there ever is, now. This now is your true sanctuary. It is the monk's temple within you. No matter how the body changes, this present moment awareness is never sick, never old, never injured. It is the silent witness, the knowing itself. It is what you have always been. The aches and pains are the weather in the sky of this awareness. The stories of past and future are clouds drifting through. But the sky of now remains, clear and steady, infinitely capable of holding it all. Trust this. Return to this. Breathe into this. This is your practice. This is your path. This path of present moment awareness, this steady abiding as the open sky, is the heart of the Buddha's invitation. We have journeyed through metaphors of mountains and rivers, fire and clay, bells and bridges. We have seen that the body's nature is change. A constant, flowing process of sensation, decay, and rebirth at the cellular level. To demand it be otherwise is to demand the ocean be still. Yet, within this very flux, a profound discovery awaits. The mind that observes the change does not have to be swept away by it. It can be the steady riverbank, the vast sky, the deep lake. This is not a theory, but a reality to be lived, breath by breath, sensation by sensation. Your practice is simple, though lifelong. When the ache speaks, listen not just to its story, but to its texture. When the fear arises, feel not just its chill, but the aware space that contains it. Be the weaver who uses all threads, the lighthouse keeper who tends the flame in any storm, the gardener who tends the soil in every season. The body will present its changing conditions, this is its duty. Your awareness can offer a steady, compassionate presence, this is your possibility. The peace you seek is not on the far side of your pain. It is in the very center of it, in the way you meet it. It is in the pause between the sensation and the reaction. It is in the breath that continues, unnoticed, beneath the loudest worry. It is in the silent, knowing presence that has been with you all along, waiting for you to stop confusing yourself with the weather, and to recognize yourself as the clear, open, boundless sky. So as we rest here together, let this understanding settle like soft dust in a sunbeam. Let there be no effort, only allowance. Allow the body to be as it is. Allow the mind to be as it is. And in that deep, radical allowance, notice what remains. A gentle, steady awareness. A peaceful presence. This is your true nature. This is home. Thank you for walking this path with me at Monk's Temple. May the steadiness you have touched here grow in you. May you be peaceful. May you be free. Good night.